Hey film fans, it's the Zachman. The day has finally arrived. James Gunn's Superman is in theaters, starring David Corenswet as the Big Blue, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. I wanted to do this review sooner, like the day after I watched it, but I had a lot of thoughts on my first viewing, which I put out in a little short if you haven't seen already. I'll try not to rehash too much of that here, but a second viewing has definitely helped, and that's why I wanted to digest a little bit, watch it again to make sure I was watching it not correctly, but understood the movie more. And that is the importance of rewatching movies, because if I had watched it just the one time, I probably would have been like, which wouldn't be invalid, but I don't think I was viewing the movie in the proper light, and rewatching it has helped a lot with a lot of my issues, as I'll kind of get into. Let me begin by saying that there are several reasons why James Gunn was handed the keys to making a new DC universe, and this movie as a whole is one of them, but is full of them. Despite being the 7th Superman movie and the 6th or 7th James Gunn comic book movie, it still has its own feeling. Like, it very clearly is a James Gunn movie, but in ways you also see his approach to Superman as a whole. There are definitely some scenes that feel like they fit more in Guardians of the Galaxy, but as someone who loves Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm not really mad about that. Especially on a second viewing, I really just have to give it up for how much this movie does in such a short amount of time. Like, this is the shortest Superman movie since Superman 4 at 1 hour and 30 minutes, and this movie is only 2 hours and I think 9-10 minutes. But it's impressive how much ground is covered in this in a very condensed amount of time. But the world building still feels organic and interesting, and not too much of a tease. We're like, oh, this is coming in the next movie, but just like, oh, this already exists. On that note, we're so quickly introduced to this take on Superman, like immediately through his actions and the things happening to him. It's not that typical introduction, which leads me to discuss the cast of characters. David Corenswet is going to be the Christopher Reeves for this generation. In how he balances being a tough and strong Superman while also being a gentle giant, like this kind-hearted farm boy. One of his first lines in the movie is golly. And when he gets upset with one character, you just ask him, what the hey, dude? Like, not even saying heck or hell, like, he just goes, what the hey? He's actively checking on people, civilians and animals, ensuring the safety of them before even like throwing a punch or getting back into the action, which was really nice. It's little details like this that indicate to the audience, yeah, this guy is bulletproof, but he also has a really big heart, and that's important. Such altruism makes him easy to instantly root for, as this is a really sweet Superman, like a really sweet guy, not just a strong one. His powers are impressive and important. They obviously are directly tied to the character, but it's his morals and his choices that make him a hero, an incredibly important theme throughout the movie. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor is fantastic. He's a very cold and calculated Luthor who has all these plans, all these things going on, but he also has these grade A freakouts, like Kylo Ren status meltdowns when things do not go his way. It's great. He's a villain you love to hate, and this performance just proves the range that Nicholas Hoult has. There hasn't been hater energy like this in a comic book movie in years. This Lex Luthor despises Superman, and it is glaringly apparent. There are obviously many other characters in this movie, some who are absolute scene stealers, but especially on a second viewing, there are characters that I just don't see the purpose of. The cast as a whole did a good job for their respective characters. The performances are not the issue. It's the script. It has, in general, maybe a bit too much going on, and with the number of characters that have names, but you're not going to remember all of them, does not really help that. The Daily Planet staff is a lot of fun to watch, and there are a couple of scenes. I really like Skylar Giasolo as Jimmy Olsen. This man has more game than Nintendo, and I thought that was hilarious to see him be a ladies' man. I really liked Wendell Pierce as Perry White. You can tell he has a great attitude and that kind of like frumpy but still likable, you know, head of a newspaper, like we see with J. Jonah Jameson and Perry White's of Superman movies past. But he's just not utilized. Like, he's on screen for some very important scenes, but he doesn't really contribute much, which isn't an issue per se. I don't really go in expecting Perry White or Jimmy Olsen to be this key player in a movie featuring the Justice Gang in them, but when there's 6 Daily Planet characters in a scene and I only really know or understand 3 of them, maybe don't have the other 3? I also felt this, though thankfully not nearly as much, with the aforementioned Justice Gang. They play a much bigger role in this in terms of plot and thematically contrast with Superman. During a battle with this giant monster, they're clearly reckless and just wanted to kill the thing without really trying to mitigate property damage, with Superman even yelling at them like, hey, like, you need to be careful, like, you guys are messing up the city, you need to watch out. Nathan Fillion is hilarious as Guy Gardner, and I'm still surprised the iconic bowl cut made it work. Eddie Gathegi gets his second shot at being a comic book movie star with his performance as Mr. Terrific, a character I knew very little about going in, and now I want a spin-off show. Or a movie. Yes, he is that cool. He's that good, and he was very well cast. I even went today and picked up one of the first issues of a new Mr. Terrific comic line, just because I was like, I want to know more about this guy. And then there's Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, and she's there. She is in the movie. I feel bad that she was just sidelined last year in Madam Web as well, but at least this one is an actual movie. It's something to do with her herself. I'm aware she's a good actress. It's just, once again, feels like Gunn was rounding out the script and said, well, I need one more JSA member. Yeah, I'll put in Hawkgirl. And she has some fun action scenes and is undeniably cool. Like, I've always really liked Hawkgirl and Hawkman since the Justice League animated series. But I think she has like maybe 5 lines total. Like, she screeches just as much as she talks. And it's just frustrating because, like I said, I know she is a good actress. She's just not given a lot to do. I don't know. It's just so jarring that Lois Lane was so well done, like especially in comparison to other Superman movies, that every other woman in this movie is kind of cardboard. You know who's good though? Crypto. Love Crypto. Everyone loves Crypto. He was the first character at my opening night viewing who got applause. Like, I started to hear people clap after he did something, and you know what? Deserved. This is the first time we've seen Crypto in live action and on the big screen, and I love that Gunn made him this lovable brat, for lack of a better term. You've probably heard how his real life dog made such an impact and influence on this interpretation of the Kryptonian canine, but it feels so personal. Like, it shines through every scene with him. He messes something up and then pouts, or you hear him whine, and characters go, well, I can't stay too mad at you, and it works. It works every time. Crypto can do no wrong in my eyes. I have been seeing people call this emotionally manipulative, as it's like, oh, well, it's the CGI character and it's a dog, so you're supposed to feel bad or feel good. I understand. I see that argument. Counterpoint, super dog. If nothing else, just go see this movie for Crypto. He's great. Honestly, if you don't feel anything when you hear him whine or when he gets hit during one of the fights, because he gets into a fight, he gets into frays. If you don't feel something when you see him, I'm just kind of convinced you don't have a heart. Which kind of leads me to say what really, really works for me and for a lot of people in this movie. It's so genuinely sincere. It is so nice. It is so actually feel good. And it's incredibly refreshing to see. There are moments that are tender with a joke laced around them, but that's just kind of the James Gunn style. There are moments that are heartwarming and inspiring, and the movie lets itself do the talking. and lets the audience just see it. This is the kindest Superman on the big screen since 1987, and that was desperately needed. This is a guy who you feel like you're friends with, not just someone that you admire. Superman makes friends and remembers civilians by their name, and is seen playing with kids after saving the day. Like, it's just so happy-go-lucky. Both times I watched it, I had this huge smile on my face for like 80% of the movie, and it's clear I'm not the only one who's had that experience. The movie's already doing well financially, the praise being near universal, and this movie is connected with audiences on such a deeper level than any recent superhero movie or blockbuster in general. The energy I felt from the auditorium opening night was something I haven't gotten since Avengers Endgame. But instead of the overarching, well, that's the last of this era and these heroes, I got more of this, I want to go out and be a hero. I want to be like Superman. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing that a Superman movie needs to be. For decades now, we've been bombarded with stories and comics and movies and video games about, oh, well, what if Superman was evil? And it's just almost surprising to see a movie go the complete opposite route and ask us, well, what if he was just like us? What if he was just a good guy? There's nothing more that I wanted than that out of this movie. Well, that and some cool action sequences, which there are plenty of here, which you could have assumed being director of Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad. It's one thing to watch Superman fight evil and fly around as this beacon of hope, but it's another thing to feel that, to like fundamentally understand. Even with the issues that I still kind of have with the script, a lot of it is helped on a second viewing, as well as setting the correct expectations. I think I personally was thrown off on the first watch by how different this felt from Superman films of the past and recent comic book movies in general. You were given reminders through dialogue of the origin, but the character is almost 100 years old. you know it by now. This isn't a Superman epic. This is a day in the life, well, week in the life of Superman, and makes it all the more relatable and engaging and endearing, as it doesn't have this kind of like, oh, is he a god, is he a man, or, you know, what does he do with all that? It's just like, he's got a lot going on. That's just part of being a human. That's just part of being a person. But he still always does the right thing. He still chooses that. He wakes up every day and chooses that. And that's just like, that's it. That's Superman, baby. I highly recommend Superman to anyone curious, regardless of your comic book level knowledge and awareness, as this is a really great balance of being a crowd-pleasing movie that also happens to be chock full of Easter eggs and plot points and characters and references that longtime Superman fans are going to appreciate. Is Superman a perfect movie? Not quite. But it absolutely accomplishes what the character was created to do in the first place. To inspire, to bring hope, and in doing so, create a better world. Things are scary right now, anywhere you look. But that doesn't mean there's not still good things happening, that there aren't still good people. This movie reminds us that each and every one of us is capable of searching for truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. And that is a super important lesson in the 21st century. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of James Gunn's Superman in the comments below. Let me know if you want to hear my thoughts on specific plot points in a separate spoiler review or spoiler discussion video, as that's where I had a lot of my initial issues with the movie. There's a lot of things that caught me off guard, but I want to be as vague as possible so that you are given enough to go off of, because this is absolutely worth your money. Beat the heat. Go see a movie. Just make sure they have air conditioning. Also make sure, if you haven't already, like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you at next episode. Same Zach time, same Zach channel.